Hi, my name's Katie and welcome to my channel. At the moment, I'm on a bit of a mission to improve the quality and the clarity of my African Cichlid tank that you can see here behind me. I have found that by the end of the week, my nitrates are starting to creep up to 40 parts per million, even doing an 80% water change once per week. The reason being that my fish are quite big now, and I've also added more fish in, and I'm feeding them quite a lot because I want them to grow quickly. The other issue that I'm then having with my tank too is because I've got a lot of nitrates and I also have pretty bright light on the tank, I tend to find that I get algae in the water by the end of the week. It kind of throws a bit of a greenish tinge, which I'm not a real big fan of. People often talk about reducing nitrates by doing more water changes or by adding plants into the tank. But what I want to do in this video is talk about some less common ways that you can reduce nitrates and manage algae in a tank. And that's through using chemical filtration and UVC. I decided that I wanted to try these things out on my fish tank, and I thought that I would share a bit about the process and how you could do this to your tank too if it was something that you're interested at looking into. So in this video, I'm going to talk about why I'm trying these two options. I'm going to show you the process of adding the chemical filtration into my fish tank and going and picking up the UV and adding it into my tank too. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a like. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And if you're enjoying my content, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel. Without further ado, let's get into the video. Nitrates are a common issue in African cichlid tanks because they tend to be highly stocked with fish, and as you would know with the nitrogen cycle, the more fish you have, the more ammonia that's being produced, then that's going to turn into nitrites, and lastly nitrates. Nitrates are sometimes forgotten about because they're not as toxic as ammonia and nitrites, but over time what can happen is the quality of the water is reduced, and if you don't keep up with water changes and you have too many nitrates, it can start to impair the quality of your fish and cause health concerns over time. So with nitrates, it's generally recommended to keep them around 20 parts per million and below, and no higher than 40 parts per million. With my tank that I have here, I have around about 25 African Cichlids in it and 3 bristlenose catfish, and I feed them twice per day. I do a water change once per week, and I've been doing an 80% water change lately. But even with that, when I measure my nitrates, by the end of the week, they're creeping up to that 40 parts per million. This isn't terrible, but it is going to be difficult to keep on top of over time, especially when some of my fish that are smaller at the moment get even larger. When it comes to nitrates, there's a few different options that you have. One of the things that people will use to reduce them is using plants. So plants will naturally uptake some of the nitrates in the water and use it like fertilizer to grow. Now, that's a great idea if you have a fish tank that tolerates plants. The thing is, with African cichlids, they tend to uproot plants and eat them and destroy them, but also there's only a limited number of plants that will enjoy the hard and high pH water that African cichlids like to live in. So I've tried plants a couple of times with these guys. The first time I tried a really expensive moss and they completely destroyed it. The second time I decided to order some jungle val from Liverpool Creek Aquariums here in Australia. I've ordered from them before when I used to have a planted setup, so I thought that because they've got great quality plants that I would give them a go and see what happens in my tank. However, I planted them into my tank and immediately they started to pick on the plants. Then the next morning I came downstairs and they were floating on top of the tank. I tried replanting them again, but just the same thing happened. They kept uprooting them and it just wasn't going to work out. So I decided that my only option is really the algae that I have on the rocks. I have added some more Texas holy rock to create some more surface area for the algae to grow on to hopefully absorb some of the nitrates in the tank. But it's not going to make a huge dent in the scheme of things. The other option that you have is doing more frequent water changes or larger water changes. But I don't particularly want to be doing 2 water changes per week on my tank because that's a lot of maintenance to be doing, and it's also quite costly in terms of adding the buffer into the tank every time that I do a water change as well. This is where I came into looking at chemical filtration. So some people had mentioned Seachem Purigen to me before, and I hadn't looked into it an awful lot because I thought that its only purpose was to improve the clarity of the water and make it look really nice and clear because it absorbs particles and waste from the water. However, when I looked into it a little bit more, it also says that it reduces your ammonia in your tank because it absorbs the organic waste that would normally get turned into ammonia by your bacteria in your filter. And if you've got less ammonia, then naturally what that's going to do is decrease the amount of nitrates that are in your fish tank as well. So I decided that I would head out to Mad Aquariums and get some Purigen to add into my FX6 filter and see how it goes. Alrighty, so I've just opened up the Purigen, then I've got here a bag that I bought separately from it to put it in. It's just meant to be a really fine mesh bag. It was quite expensive, around about $20 I think it was, but I got it because I was going to try and use stockings or pantyhose for it, but I worried that they wouldn't be fine enough either, so I thought we'll just go all out. I'll get the bag so then I can show you what the bag looks like as well. It says on here that 500 mils treats 2,000 litres, and this itself is 500 mils, and this cost me around about $75 Australian to buy, but it treats the 2,000 litres and it's also meant to last around 6 months, but I think that can depend on how much waste you have in your tank. So sometimes it might last only half of that if you've got a really heavily stocked tank, so I'm just going to have to see how it goes for my tank. I only need a third of it, so I've just gotten some cups to measure out around about 166 mils I think it is that I need for my tank, and you don't want to overdo it because you're just wasting it and it's unnecessary. I think it can end up doing the opposite of what it's meant to if you put too much in, and also you don't want to take too much waste out of your tank anyway because you want your bacteria colony to still have something to feed off. The way that a filter works is that you want 3 types of filtration. You've got your mechanical filtration, and that's the purpose of having sponges and things that will actually catch debris that are coming into your filter. And you want that because you have the next layer being your biological filtration. So stuff like this is your biological media, and you don't want that getting all clogged up and stuff. And lastly, you have your chemical filtration, and this Purigen is chemical filtration. Now, the reason that you would put chemical filtration last in your filter is because if you think about it, if you've got this first and that's taking out the waste from the water, then all of your bacteria in your biological media isn't going to have anything to feed off, and that's going to impact your colony. When you have a really big bioload like this fish tank, there is normally going to be plenty of waste to be able to feed your bacteria either way. Some people, for ease of maintenance, for them they're going to put it up the top anyway and maybe just under some mechanical filtration. What I'm going to do is actually put it in my bottom tray because I find that the hardest part of cleaning my filter, then the thing I don't like the most, is just the process of getting the water out and opening it up. But when it comes to removing the trays, for me, I don't find that too much effort to just remove the first 2 and put this one down the bottom. So that's what I'm going to do, but it's totally up to you to decide what tray you'd like to put it in and what's easiest for you personally. So I'm going to take our trays out and pop it in. All right, so just like that, we're all ready to go. So we'll pop it back into the filter, and so it's going to be, this one's going in first because that's where our water's going to touch last. Then we'll put our middle tray in, then our top tray, fill it back up, and we'll be all ready to go. Although the nitrates are potentially going to decrease the amount of algae that's in my water column as well, because there won't be that excess of nutrients to feed them, because I have extremely bright lighting on my tank, it's probably not going to make a huge dent to the amount of algae that is being produced in my tank, because at the end of the day, my tank is still creating a lot of ammonia and a lot of waste and nitrates. So I wanted to also look at another option, which is UVB lighting. So UVB lighting is something that destroys algae, and it also can destroy bacteria that you don't want to be in your water column, so it's kind of got a double benefit. But the main reason I wanted to try it was for managing the algae in the tank. With UVB, there's two options. You can either get an inline UVB system, so that's something that you connect to your canister filter, and that way your canister filter pump is the thing that pumps the water through the UVB light when it's going back into your tank. The other option is getting an internal system, so that's a system that's got its own pump and you insert it into your tank just like you would an internal filter. So I decided to opt for something that is called the green killing machine, which has really great reviews. It was actually something that I had looked at a little while ago, but it wasn't available at the time here in Australia. I think most places had just run out of stock. And I saw that it had come back into stock at TechDen, so I decided to make a trip up to the Sunshine Coast yesterday to get it. It's only the day after right now adding the UVB into my tank, and I honestly think that it's already making a huge difference with the clarity of the water even just after one day. So I'm really excited to update you in the next video in a week's time as well to show you the difference by the end of the week to see if the water looks less green than what it normally would. It is a little bit costly, so it was about $200 per unit to add into my tank, and each one does about 400 litres maximum. So I had to get two because my tank's got a total volume of around 670 litres. When I compared that to some of the bigger inline systems, the price point was pretty comparable here in Australia, and I actually wanted to avoid adding something onto my canister filter anyway, because the idea of cutting the outlet pipe doesn't really sit well with me. It seems like there's a lot of potential for it to go wrong. Whereas if it's something that's an internal system that I can just add into the tank and I can take it out whenever I want or put it in a different tank. So I just liked the simplicity of it being an internal unit. Even though it's not the most attractive thing, I still felt like I could make it blend in well enough with the filters that I've got in here already and didn't really mind. So what I'm going to do is show you some footage of me going and picking up the UVB from TechDen, and I did a little bit of filming in the store as well because it's a really nice big store, and I thought you might enjoy just seeing some of the things that they've got available at TechDen as well. So I'm at TechDen now, and I've just asked and they said that it should be okay to film, but like the big boss isn't here today, so I'm just going to take some footage, and if they're okay with it then I'll keep it and everything like that. But the first thing that I thought I would just show you quickly is where I got the green machine thing from. So it just looks like this. This one's an internal one, and you can see here that there are some inline ones that you can get. So these ones you just connect them to your canister filter outlet, but this one here is by Fluval, and it's actually not made for the FX6 anyway, and it would then restrict the flow probably, and it's also only 400 litres max too, which is the same as this one. So really I'm pretty happy with just getting the one that's internal, and then I don't have to cut up my outlet pipe and everything for my canister filter. It's really nice and dark in here. It's kind of nice and relaxing, but it's super big. And the other thing I would just mention quickly too is they told me that they're actually moving premises as well in like 3 or 4 months or so, and they're going somewhere that's going to be double the size. So that's going to be really awesome. And I'm thinking what I'll do is when they move to that new premise and it's really big, if they're happy for me to, I might do, you know, a proper full video dedicated to a store tour of the new store when it's all set up. And these are the really nice display tanks that they've got just out the front of the store. I really love them. Really nice setups. I love the mister on this one. And you can tell, again, it's another store that takes really good care of their stock and a lot of pride in their store as well. You can tell that they upkeep all of their tanks really well and maintain them. A few more live plants in there to choose from. Then this whole entire wall, all the way down to the end, and then all along the back as well is just fish. They've got so much to choose from in here. And I've had a look at all of the tanks already, and all of the fish look really nice and healthy, and a huge range of fish as well. Literally just anything that you could think of, they seem to have in here. Got some really beautiful gold rams. How gorgeous is that fish? Oh, looks like a little whiptail catfish in there too. Really nice colours, look at that. I love rams, I would totally keep them again. And then we've got some blue rams in here too. I still think that my favourite are the Bolivian rams, but I do like some of the colour varieties that they come in and stuff, but there's just something about the Bolivian rams that I really like. I was saying the other day to my mum, fish are kind of like fashion in a way. I mean, that sounds horrible, not as in like their material possessions, but I find that they go in and out of trend, certain fish, and at the moment I'm finding that fancy goldfish are going into trend a little bit. Oh look, we've got some of them, the Ranchu ones, I think. Oh, beautiful. They're really cute. I don't know a lot about goldfish and their, you know, the health and stuff of the fancier varieties. I know that they can be pretty finicky though, similar to discus, but yeah, really cool. I'm finding that like a bare bottom goldfish tank with just some rocks and stuff like that and bubbles in it, and the really clear kind of like low iron glass is definitely a bit on trend at the moment. I was thinking it'd be cool to keep goldfish with axolotls because they both need a chiller anyway. If you live here in Queensland, we would benefit from a chiller anyway. I think that they are starting to close up, so some of the lights are turning off and stuff, so I better get out of here. Don't want to hold anyone back. Well, I'm all finished. That was pretty much literally perfect timing. I just filmed the discus and they're just turning all of the lights off and stuff like that on the fish tanks, because with such a huge store like this, it would be so annoying, I reckon, if it got really busy and you would have customers wanting to buy fish and stuff just before you close, and then you know how long it takes to get fish out of tanks, and then you get that one person who's like me and you're like, I want that one and that one and that one and that one, and then half an hour later you're still getting fish out. So sounds like they've got a pretty tight regime here, pretty, you know, on schedule and everything like that, and really nice store. So definitely come check it out if you live in the area in the Sunshine Coast. So I'm from Brisbane and it took me about an hour drive to get here, but yeah, really nice store, and it's going to be cool seeing the upgrade when they move to a bigger place in, you know, 3 or 4 months or so like that. I think it's going to be really nice. All right, I'm going to head back into the car and that's it. I just wanted to give a huge shout out as well to the staff who work here, because even before I said anything about filming the video and stuff like that, they were just so friendly and so nice to be around. It was a really warm and welcoming atmosphere and everything, and everyone was really nice to talk to and stuff, so really cool. And I actually met a guy and he does an aquarium maintenance business, and I followed his Instagram and it's really great. So it was, oh, I can't remember the name exactly right now, but I'll put it up on the screen anyway if anyone's living in the Brisbane kind of, you know, Sunshine Coast, Gold Coast area. Not sure how far he travels, but if you're in that southeast region, you might like to check it out if you've got a fish tank and you'd like to pay someone to do maintenance. It's the day after of adding the UVB in and the Purigen in as well. Technically 2 days since adding the Purigen, and so far so good. In a week's time, I'll upload another video showing the results of the nitrate levels by the end of the week and what the water clarity looks like as well by the end of the week. If you found this video to be enjoyable or helpful in any way, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Don't forget to give it a like as well, and if you haven't subscribed already, I'd love for you to subscribe to my channel, and you can hit the little bell notification too, so then you get notified each time that I upload a new video, and you won't miss the part 2 of this where you get to see the final results of adding the UVB and the Purigen into the filter. Well, that's it for this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!